All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Never Stop Building podcast with me, your awesome host, Sam Kaufman. I have a guest here today, which I'm sure you're all excited about because I just keep talking and talking and talking, which I'm sure it gets boring at some point. I've got the infamous Kris Whitehead with me here today. Hey, Kris.
Hey, what's up, Sam? Does infamous mean I got in a lot of trouble and I got caught for it, or does infamous mean that I've done things that have made me not famous? I'm not sure which yet.
Look, so in the spirit of honesty, because you're also one of my mentors, I don't know. It just sounds cool. So you pick whatever works for you, and the audience can pick what works for them, and we'll just roll with that. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. I appreciate you having me on your podcast, Sam. I really do.
I appreciate you coming. You have been probably more influential than you realize in the last 6-month transition of my life. So maybe we'll get into that later. Maybe not. Maybe I'll keep you guessing. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But I appreciate you coming on. I know you're a super busy guy. Look, before we get into conversation, can you tell the audience a little bit about what makes Kris Whitehead? Who are
Sure,
you?
man. So, as of this recording, I'm 48, and I've been in business for half my life now. So I started my first business at 24, and honestly, my first real business at 24. I was washing cars and mowing lawns at 15, 16 years old. And what I learned is I could either go be a lifeguard for $3.50 an hour, or I could go mow a lawn in Northern Virginia for $35 an hour. And I found out that one day of work gave me an entire week's worth of income compared to the other job. And I could put in a Walkman. I could do what I want. I just had to figure out how to get from job to job. And so I went to college, and I made it until my senior year, and I quit 13 credits shy of graduating. And it was because I kept jumping around to all these different majors, and I liked bits and pieces of all of them. But when I thought about, well, what do you do with it? None of it seemed inspiring. None of it seemed like, going and playing baseball or any of that kind of stuff. And so I quit and immediately went and got a job at Radio Shack. And so that kind of dates me. And
I was going to say, if you didn't know what 48 meant, now you do.
And I became the number one salesman in the Eastern region, and that wasn't a very hard thing to do. It was mostly by just expediting tickets. Like, I realized at the end of each day that I would, close more transactions by a factor of 10 to 20 than any other person in the store. And just by luck, that means that you run into more people that want a cell phone, you run into more people that want a computer. So my numbers were bigger. And so that was my first lesson in a job of, the more I hustle, the more I sell. The downside of it is it didn't matter how much I sold. I couldn't make more than 25 grand a year. Like, nothing I did. I couldn't. So I remember meeting a district manager and at a flagship store, and I started asking him, what do you make? What do you do? And it's like, I make a couple $100,000 a year. I work 6 days a week, and he was in a suit and tie, and it just didn't seem appealing. Like, this whole retail and the people and the weird employees and all this stuff. Like, I don't want to mess with any stuff. And it so happened that somebody came and approached me about a multi-level marketing deal, and I got into it, but I couldn't figure out how to work 100 hours a week at Radio Shack as a manager and do the multi-level marketing deal. So somebody that was in the multi-level marketing deal starting to make money, they cleaned houses. They came from corporate America and cleaned houses. And I literally went in and quit. And that was the beginning of a remodeling company, and sheer grit, dude. No experience, no intelligence, just, I'll learn how to paint. I'll learn how to build a deck. I'll learn how to put a countertop in, and going to Lowe's with a lot of Black & Decker books. And then, it was hiring employees, and here we are now. I have 4 companies that I own, and a lot of that comes from who I align myself with. And it took me a lot of years to learn that alignment was way more important than people with skill sets. And as I started to align myself in a business world and in a personal world with people that were high achievers, I started to translate that to the people that I employed. And all of a sudden I found myself becoming a leader in my company instead of a worker in my company. And I went from working, I don't know, 40, 60 hours a week. I then worked 4 hours a week. And now I don't work in the remodeling company at all. It runs itself. And I have
Congratulations.
another, thank you.
Yeah.
I have another company called Iconic Alliance, and I don't work very much in that company either. And you and I know each other through a mutual company called Apex. And I invest a lot of my time networking with quality human beings like you so that we can all live a better life together. And my final company is an investment company for passive income because we never work for the same dollar twice.
Mm-hmm.
And so the making money thing, I figured that out. And along the way, so the last component that I put together was making money. So it's funny, you get into business, you can do one thing, make money. That took me 20 years to figure out how to do. But along the way, I learned a lot about relationships. I learned a lot about mindset. I learned a lot about my purpose and what other people's purposes are, and how we live a life that's on fire. And when all of those pieces come together, you can start really shining your light out into the world. So I invest most of my time now encouraging, lifting up, and running alongside of people that are shining their light, because I believe that's how we'll have a better country and ultimately a better world. And so here we are, man.
Here we are. Wow. Quick. So I have a few questions. I am curious
Sure.
about a couple of things, even though
Sure.
I've heard you, I listen to you frequently, and yet there's something different when you're just talking to me. It's like a different kind of listen. I don't know why. I have a question. So you're dedicated, you spend all of this time, and you really do. You are like, anywhere that you can give back to people, Kris Whitehead is right there giving back to people.
I like it.
Yeah, you must. It's quite awesome. My question, not relating giving back to making money, but I am curious as to whether or not you figured out how to make money and then said, okay, now that I've made a bunch of money, I'm going to dedicate a bunch of time to giving back and caring about people. Or if you did it the other way, I'm going to dedicate myself to my mission, and the money will be what it will be. It will get figured. I'm curious if it was that direction, because I have a feeling I know the answer. But I'd kind of like you to speak on that a little.
So, and we run into this now with people that are just stepping into leadership that sometimes don't understand when I'm a little bit more aggressive, because they're very heart-centered people. My whole life, man, I've been somebody that I love to give. Like, if I had two cookies, I was invariably, have you tried this? And I just give it away, right? If I had things to do that were fun, I always wanted to do them with someone. My challenge personally is that I used to give to people that would take without getting anything in return. And especially in the business arena, I would employ people, they would show up, and I would give them money. And because I was somebody that enjoyed giving and not asking for much in return, them just showing up was good enough. When I started to understand that, we have to be a good steward with our money or any of our resources, actually, or you don't get more of them. It's just common sense, right? If I take a dollar bill and I burn it, or stuff it in a hole, what's going to return from it? Absolutely nothing. But if I take that same dollar bill with a lesson attached to it and burn it in front of 1,000 people, I might have 1,000 people that decide that they want to pay me for more of those lessons. If I take that $1 bill and I invest it into someone that can return me a second dollar bill, I learned something from it. And it took me a long time to not feel guilty for being that way. It took me a long time to be the kind of person that says, hey, not everybody's ready for what I have to say. Not all employees are created the same. Not all business leaders are created the same. Hell, not even all relationships with, a female are created the same. Just because she's a nice woman doesn't mean our core values are aligned. So what happened was I was a go-giver. I started realizing that the results I was getting didn't match the heart that I was giving it from. I started to understand who I was and what my purpose is and what really my core values are. And I started sharing that with people. And then I started attracting people that were like me. And what happened is the money started to come because people that were like me got similar results and they were willing to pay for more of those results. I just shared with people my experiences in the past because I've done a lot being a doer. And once that happened, that resource of money just gave me more opportunity to share more with people. And I love that way. So no, I wasn't somebody that was not a go-giver. I've always been a go-giver, but I started giving it to the right people with a caveat, Sam, with a caveat. There was a good portion of my life where I was desperate because I was giving all of my good energy to people that gave me no return. Therefore, I would take from people that were willing to give to me and mess that relationship up. And I had to make that shift into an abundant mindset, and that there were more than enough people out there that would reciprocate what I was giving them. And now I invest my time with those people.
Almost like if you have 5 or 6 or 7 employees and you're giving and giving and giving, it's important. There's 5, 6, 700 more out there if those don't align with your core values and your purpose. Correct. And your mission. And if your spouse is not aligned with there's another infinite amount of spouses. There's an infinite amount of money. There's legitimately an infinite amount of anything that can match us. You brought this up, and luckily my wife hates podcasts. So there's a very, very low chance she'll listen to this and what I'm about to say. But we went out to dinner the other night, and I think you would appreciate this. It's funny. You have all this business experience, and you and I have these bi-weekly calls, and we never talk about business. We never talk about business. We talk about relationships, heart. We talk about exactly this stuff. So we're out to dinner the other night. My wife throws a grenade at me. And I didn't see it coming, man. I should have. I didn't see it coming. And she brought up. So I recently implemented an unlimited PTO at my company this year. And basically the email said this: if you can't be trusted with this, you don't align with us anyway, see yourself out. That's it. I don't want to track it anymore. I don't want to be the gatekeeper of a grown man's sick day or vacation day, no one does that for me. And you said translate it to your employees, right? And that stuck out to me when you said you started to translate it. Well, you know what? I want to start treating these people a little bit more as leaders, more like how I expect to be treated, trusted, and valued. Right. And so I unroll this unlimited PTO thing. So this comes up, I don't know how, comes up in conversation at dinner the other night. And my wife, I saw the eyebrow raise. I'm like, well, she's not going to like this very much. But that's now, mind you, why? Because for the first 5 years I was in business, I gave to everybody. It didn't matter if they stole from me. It didn't matter if they showed up on time. It didn't matter because I gave and gave and gave and gave. And I thought if I just gave enough, they'd eventually change. They'd eventually give it back to me in some way, right? Which really is the difference between go giving and go stealing, in my opinion, because sometimes, and we think we're leading, what we're doing is manipulating. I'll give because I expect. And I will pretend like I don't expect, but I'm giving to receive. I'm not. And when like a true leader, like what I do with my people now, I give and walk away. I don't give a fly. I don't care. I don't care what happens on the back end of it. You either align with me or you don't. My core value statement has a sentence that we read every Monday that says, this is what I live by, and I demand the same from you. Take it or leave. My team loves it. We love it. Anyway, it comes up, and my wife is like, we have the discussion about unlimited PTO gets a little bit heated. Okay. And now, mind you, my wife challenges me in ways that no one else really does. She holds me accountable, keeps my feet to the fire. She protects me. She tries to protect me. And I love her for it. Just in case she listens to this, Amanda, I swear, I really believe that. Okay. But the conversation gets heated, and it kind of like derails the dinner a little bit. We're driving back. we get it. We get it back to centered. We're driving back to pick up some dessert. And she goes, I'm not trying to argue with you, but you got to give me some grace, because for a lot of years you came home and complained about how people treated you and all the things you gave away and all the theft and the this and the. She's like, what do you want me to expect? What do you want me to think when you say things like I'm giving unlimited? And so I thought to myself, man, like, it's crazy to me how I have to earn, I don't have to earn respect from the people I'm leading, right? I have to earn the title and the view of being a leader to my wife, my kids. It's a role that we sit in because we have to, but we have to live it. And I wanted to tell that story because you said translate over. And I thought I'm like, yeah, like I start going to Apex, I start talking to Kris, I start talking to mentors, I start kind of aligning my core values with the rest of my life, not just my business. And screw my wife, right? Because what did you say? We take from the ones who were really giving to us. That was my wife. I took for years. I took her energy and I took her sanity, and I came home and my business and my money and this guy and this employee and what I dumped it on her. And now that we've pulled out of that and we're living in an alignment, she still has that. And I was driving my truck and I went, yeah, she's right. That's my fault. I haven't earned the right for her to say, yeah, you did the right thing. I trust you and I trust your team. I didn't earn that yet. And that's okay.
I get it.
Right. Yeah. But I wanted to bring that up with you because that's kind of what we talk about. So how do you earn that? How do people go out and earn that leadership view from the people who really, really we've taken from? You know what I mean?
So yeah, it's every situation is different. So in order to give a high level view, what I've often found for me personally is that when I finally asked that question, the question you just asked, in my gut, I intrinsically know the thing I'm supposed to do. And it's usually kind of strange, a little bit like, well, nobody else has ever done that way, or I've never said that way, or it's exactly what I said, except I mean the inverse of it now. There's all these weird juxtapositions, but in my gut, I go, I can't believe I'm getting ready to do this. Like you talk about the unlimited PTO. Do they all work out? Hell no, they don't all work out. But what I've experienced is instead of letting it go through my head, I let it settle in my gut. My gut's not my heart. There's a difference. My heart can have me feel all sorts of things, but my gut often goes, or, mm-hmm. And then I know that it's the thing. It's why have I had the experience of going, oh my God, I've just figured out the meaning of life, and I'll come home and talk to my wife and she'll go, shut the fuck up. And I go, what do you mean? I understand the meaning of life. Dude, she didn't go through that whole process with me. So it's the way to win it is be very careful who you say what you say to, number one, especially when a plant is really tiny and we're calling your dream or your new idea this little tiny seed that's just come out of the ground. Be real careful who you tell that to. Why don't you nurture and grow that thing and get some results from it and have it get a couple branches and all of a sudden a little bud and then all of a sudden a little piece of fruit's growing from it. You can go, I just figured out something and here's the result of it. And you keep doing that until you get multiple results from it. And then you go back to these people and say, hey, I'm finding a way that works and I want to let you know why. Now, for people like you and me that have businesses and we're ever evolving through that process, you have to have leaders with you because they have to be willing to shift. And if they're not willing to shift, they're often left behind and they often get resentful for it. So you brought up something earlier that I'm really glad to hear that you're doing, which is you're communicating about your core values all the time. Sam, I spend probably 80% of my time, maybe 90%, with my children, with my spouse, with my friends, with my business clients, with everyone. All I really talk about are core values, one way, somehow or another. Because if we agree, like my number one core value is integrity, and that's not just something to say. I have it broken down into 3 parts. But because that core value is that strong, as long as anything that I'm talking about passes that barrier of a core value, then it's a viable opportunity, even if it's weird. But what I found that makes me an entrepreneur is I'm willing to go into the weird stuff. I'm willing to do unconventional things. I'm willing to shake the industry up a little bit because I enjoy living my life that way, because I don't like being a cog in a fucking wheel. I want to be unique. I want to be all me. I want to create change that's everlasting and that has a legacy behind it. And that is going to require me to do brave things, which obviously makes you a leader. Then I need to be able to translate those brave things and not say, hey, just jump off the bridge and we'll grow wings. That sounds good until you're standing at the foot of the bridge. That sounds good until you stand up on top and look over the edge. It takes massive guts to take that leap. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a parachute on your back just in case, because I already know the result's going to be there. I'm not just willy-nilly going blah, blah, because I did that one time in my life, bro, and I lost everything in 2008, 2009. It'll be there. It'll be there until it's not. And when it hits, it hurts. So I've learned to be strategic, and I've learned to make sure that I'm actually truly taking care of people. Here's the thing that I learned, the biggest lesson I've learned and that I've reinforced recently, is that the only thing I'm truly responsible for are the words that come out of my mouth. Regardless of what result comes after that, that does not give me a reason not to be good for my word. See, if I make a promise to you and you break the promise to me, that doesn't mean that I get to break my promise to you. My life has become infinitely simpler and way richer on every level because I am integrity to my word. What it also teaches me, because I used to be a yes man, which we were just talking about, is that I'm becoming more and more careful about willy-nilly allowing my tongue to speak before my brain gets into action.
Yeah.
And that's helped me a lot. And that's something that a lot of people mess up on because they get caught up in an emotion. It happens to me every once in a while too. They make a commitment, then they fall out of integrity to that commitment. And then everybody likes to go, oh, it's karma. Oh, it's God. Yeah, maybe. Or it's your unconscious mind realizing that you're a liar to yourself. And so you don't give yourself permission to go to the next level. That's whatever right. You want to call it.
We made a commitment to a result, not to the journey. We made a commitment to the gift, to the reward, not to the work. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. About 2 years ago, Kris, I had a guy who's been with me for a lot of years, and he used to make this joke. Oh yeah, I got all the faith in the world in what he says. I just have no faith in his timelines. And it was the running joke at my company. He would say it. He's still here today. He's a leader at the business. And one day I don't know what happened, but that it upset me. Because I actually thought about what he was saying, and what he was saying was, yeah, he means it now. Sure, he means it now. It may not ever happen. I don't know. What he was really saying was, it sounds great. We'll see. And I stopped talking before I thought. I stopped harping on this will get me rich. So let me go see how many people are bought in and then see if I can get them to do stuff to get me there. Right. I stopped. And now I present plans. It
goes back to that conversation that you had with your wife. I mean, not to be a teaching moment, but it's kind of like,
that was a huge teaching
moment. By the way,
go ahead.
Well, and by the way, I'm not only a client, I'm also a president of this conversation, but you didn't prepare the ground before you made the statement, and your wife is looking at it from the place of wanting to protect you, but it created an argument because she doesn't understand the shift that's taking place in you. And that's important for us to remember that. I mess it up quite often because, bro, I'm going 1,000 miles an hour all day long. I might make $500,000 of decisions on any given day. And I come home and I think Robin understands what that looks like. So to me, yeah, we're going to take 50 grand. We're going to put it here. 10 grand goes here. Oh, we're also building this over here. And I decided to buy 3 new trucks, and I fired this guy and I hired this new marketing person. And she's looking at me like, what?
That was last
Dude, we haven't
Tuesday
finished breakfast at the house yet, man. Yep. You know, and I'm like, oh, well, don't worry. It'll all be okay. And she goes, No, I know that guy. I know that manic fool. How do you know where? And so I invited her into something without preparing her for it. And we need to do that for all the people that we're with because it's irresponsible. We don't give them the parachute and we ask them to jump with us. And dude, I don't know about your wife. Mine's jumped with me a couple times and bounced. And she's just kind of like, you aren't that smart and you got a harder head than me. And I plan on being here for a while. So you just keep on jumping if that's what you got to do, but you ain't taking me with you anymore. And I was like, all right,
Yeah, but
fine.
my wife has jumped with me every time I've asked, you know, and there's something to be said about that. She's bounced a few
Amen.
times too. Yeah, she's bounced a few. You're so right though about preparing. And I'll tell you where it went, and I'll tell you where she got me. She said, "Well, what are you gonna do when someone takes advantage of this? Will somebody? More than likely. Humans are
Sure.
humans." I said, "That's easy. That means they don't align with our core values, and I'll fire them." And she gave me the look, and it dawned on me, she hasn't been here 7 months ago, 12 months, over the last 6 years. My biggest weakness in business has been firing people. I
Wait
hated
too
it.
long.
I'll
Yeah.
wait to I prefer that they quit, and I own the company. I can position certain things about your day to make you want to quit, and blah blah blah, and it's toxic and it hurts other. I was so afraid I wasn't afraid of conflict. I believed selfishly that if I fired someone, it was a failure on my end, and I was determined to fix them instead of fire them.
Yep.
Because I'm a leader. I have to fix everyone, and everybody I bring in has to work and be perfect and blah, blah, blah. I can't ever make a hiring mistake. And my wife went, yeah, sure. When I said that, and it dawned on me, you know what? Everything I've said in this dinner has been right. She just doesn't have the evidence. She hasn't been here she doesn't know I am actually prepared to fire whoever doesn't align with the core value. She's not, because I didn't give her the parachute. I didn't give her the parachute. In her head, yeah, sure you will. Sure. Yeah, sure. You won't give them another 3 weeks. That used to be a running joke too. I had a guy one time made a joke. Somebody I don't remember what they were doing. It was something ridiculous. And I went, well, I guess we got to let him go. And he's like, yeah, you'll promote him and make him a manager first. We'll let him go after. It was like, because I used to, oh, well, they're not challenged. I'll give them more. Maybe that's the like I was always trying to be a dad to everybody, you know? Yeah. So I just,
a lot of us make that mistake, man. I made it a lot. I held on to a salesman for about a year longer than I should have, and he cost me $180,000 in lost revenue.
You're lucky it was only 180.
Yeah. It was bad, but you know, even as you're saying that, I'm not sure that I ever put it to my mind the way that you said it. And that's something I'm going to meditate on. And what you said was, it was you had made a mistake and you have to fix them. And there was anyway, going back to that gut thing, as soon as you said that, my gut felt it. And I was like, that's something for Whitehead to explore. And that's where I want everybody to get to sometime in their life is you don't have to pay attention to the jargon going on up in your forehead. Listen to what your body tells you. It will respond to good and bad things. And if you're just open to exploring it, you might find your own solution. But anyway, when you said that, I was like, there's a nugget, and I wonder what's going to come of it. I'm going to pray about it. And I'm going to meditate on it because there's something I can do for some healing for me to make better decisions in the future. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's nice to be listened to. That's why I love this group. I love these new relationships. You know, it's we're just while we're on the topic of core values, because it is something you and I definitely align on more. We're very hot and heavy about the core value situation, you and I. We've been talking a lot about employees and spouses and stuff, and you mentioned sales and lost revenue. And I, you know, this can be brief, but I think it's also important. Like, we're letting go of a subcontractor because they don't show up on time. They are a great installer. They are a great they do great work. It's the nicest guy in the world, but he doesn't communicate proactively. That's our first core value. Core value number one is communicate proactively. He does not tell us when he's not going to be on time. And because of that, we had a meeting this morning. We decided as a group, we have to let him go. Sucks, but it is what it is, because if we aren't serving the customer, and that's my question, let's move a little deeper on the core value and alignment. You said body, right? So like, I've learned over the last few months, if I'm around a certain amount, a group of people, and I am anxious, uncomfortable, and unhappy, there's a reason. Something's wrong. There's something wrong with me being in that group of people. Is it me not wanting, whatever it is? Mike Claudio helped me understand that a lot of my anxiety over the last month or two was my schedule was not in alignment with my values. My day-to-day time blocking was way off to my purpose. Fixing it, I have my anxiety dispersed in 3 days. 3 days. The anxiety is gone. I'm not saying I don't feel it. I don't get overwhelmed, but holy shit, the body responds so quickly to spiritual and emotional distress. It's wild. That being said, moving into customers aligning with core values, vendors, spouses, friends, places of business, places we shop. How deep do you go? How deep do you dig on your alignment? Because you are the alignment over assignment guy. You are that guy. That phrase is huge. I actually think 90% of people that you say that to, and I'm not knocking anyone in particular, I don't think people quite grasp how deep that goes. I have prayed and meditated on that statement many times since we met, and holy shit, does that kind of go like, it's everywhere. It's every human, every interact. I mean, you elaborate. It's not my thing. It's yours, but holy cow.
So without sounding extremely woo-woo about it, so forgive me, audience, if you're listening to this and this doesn't make sense to you. And if it doesn't, then you got some work to do. I have worked so much to get out of my conscious mind, right? And start working on the unconscious mind. I've been doing it for a decade. And a lot of that has to do with meditation and prayer. And that's not sitting in some yogi position for hours on end, saying the word Om. It's truly living a life being aware. And the reason that's so important to me is I spent most of my life like a piece of wood, like completely unaware of pain, completely unaware of emotions. I had a very traumatic upbringing compared to who, I don't know, but for me it sucked ass. And that turned me off. And so when I turned off, I started going into things that made me feel, well, sex and drugs and whatever make you feel things. And so they became my placebo. And then I started realizing that they had negative side effects. I don't judge anybody for it does well. Yes, I do. But, you know, in the context of this, like, you do whatever the hell you want to do. But for me, I didn't want that behavior, especially as I started to have children, because like, I don't want them to have that behavior. Why? Well, they could go do something stupid and get hurt. And I don't want that for them or for me or for my wife or for the grandparents or whoever, right? So just out of safety, I just started going, well, maybe there are healthier ways to do this. And in the process of doing it, Sam, this is going to sound woo-woo as hell. Quite often, I know a day ahead of time whether something is going to be good or bad. I'll feel it in my gut and it'll come out of the ether. A thought of somebody or something will happen and I'll feel it. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm starting to already prepare psychically, emotionally, even sometimes physically for the altercation. And most of mine comes around negative experiences because that's what I had most of growing up, or at least that I remember. They're the things that affected me, right? Mm-hmm. So even when Robin and I are getting ready to have a fight, I know it happens a day ahead of time and we're happy as hell that day, but it'll come over me almost like, and this is the best way I can describe it. Have you ever sneezed and immediately knew you're sick? Like in that sneeze, it changes in your head and you're like, oh my God, I'm actually sick. Now I sneeze 100 times a day and I'm not sick, but I'll sneeze that one time and all of a sudden I'm like, man, I got a cold. It's almost like that will happen to me. And that will start to bring my awareness of alignment. I start listening really hard to what people are saying because a lot of times, a lot of us will just allow people to talk all over us. And whether they're feeling good or bad, we don't really pay attention to what they're really saying. We don't really understand the intention behind why they're saying it. So when that thing hits me in the gut, my spidey senses go up and the flags go up, and I start listening and being very conscious about what's going on. And I can start seeing it. And it's helped me so much learn how to step out at the last second from that mighty blow that comes, and it just barely grazes my nose instead of hitting me in the sense. So the reason I believe is so exceptionally important.
Hold on, your mic. Come back to me. Don't say this yet. It looked like it was going to be great. Your mic's getting a little choppy. Yeah, now there you are. Yep.
Okay. The reason that I say alignment is so much greater than assignment is most of us do not spend time consciously aware. And when I align myself with people with values like me, I can trust to let my guard down, and what they talk about builds me up even when I don't know that it's happening. If I have 100 friends, 99 of them are complete assholes who are selfish, and one good friend, I probably won't have success. If I have 100 friends around me that believe in my core values and love me and will warn me and protect me even against myself, I have a much higher chance of winning at whatever I call my goals. It's simple.
It is simple, but it is power. You are controlling the content you absorb on every level.
Every level. Including who you put around you.
Man.
Ever. Imagine this. You have the best day of your life, but your wife comes in and says one thing because they know those little ways to say that that'll ruin your day. That's called alignment. That's called making agreements with people that we don't do this to one another. And sometimes that requires change in you. Sometimes that requires change in them, and sometimes it requires changing them.
Wow. Huh. So if we're aligned everywhere on our values and our mission, we control the content.
Always.
Control the
Dude,
content.
think about your and my content on Facebook. Do you know I pretty much only see my friends winning all the time? I don't see negativity.
Dude, that I can't even begin to explain to people how much of an impact that has made on my life.
It's huge.
People are like, do not get on social media first thing in the morning. I jump on. My shit's awesome. I hop on for a few minutes. I like some people's stuff. I post my own post 4:50, 5:30 in the morning. All I'm doing is absorbing wins. You might not want to hop on. I'm not watching the news. You are. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, I never wow. Yeah. You know, it's funny, and I think about my morning just today. Our meeting ran late, my fault. And as it's running late, a few people in the meeting are running late. They need questions answered, and I'm getting talked at. 3, 4 people getting talked at, and they're problems. And I went from up here to down here so quickly. 20 minutes before our call, I was anxious. I'm like, what am I? I don't even understand. I'm anxious about talking to Kris for an hour on a podcast. I'm like, I pay him for this. Not for this podcast, but I mean, a mentor of mine. I'm like, what am I anxious about? And now I'm thinking through, you know, you're like, we get all this energy and this information. I'm like, man, that 45-minute, they didn't do anything wrong. It was my own disalignment with my schedule, my time blocking, and then ultimately theirs. But the amount of problems that came into my you said ethos, whatever, the amount of problems I absorbed in such a small time frame that needed solving. When I walked away, I came to this call like, I don't feel good. Man, that is quick. That is quick.
Dude, think about this. I'm listening right now to Arnold Schwarzenegger's book called Total Recall. Right?
No pun intended.
So he's a championship weightlifter. He won Mr. Olympia, all this stuff. And what it makes me think about, why is it that when a boxer or any person in the physical arena is in the process of getting ready for that competition, do you think that they're dealing with emotional stress and other people's problems or blah? No, they're singularly focused on the results that they're achieving. And they achieve things at a level that most of us will cheer them on, pay for them, look at them for who they are. Think of David Goggins. Why is it that we treat us different? Why is it that I'm not putting myself through a routine with my calendar, that my day is already planned out the day ahead of time, that I have my to-dos, that I am highly focused? Hell, I hire employees, they come to me with problems, I send them back out the door until they come back to me with at least one solution, because that's why I hired you, is to give me solutions, not more problems. If you're going to bring me problems, I don't need you. I'll go do this by myself. And trust me, our business is big enough that I can shrink it back down, that I can make plenty of money without any of this bullshit. So with that being said, I've started to make that shift of creating leaders. I've started to make that shift of bringing more leaders into my life. Why? They bring more solutions, not more problems.
Yep.
Because of why? Look at how you feel. And I felt like that for years. And I finally said, why am I doing this? I can choose to not live this way. What if I lose everybody? Fuck them. They left. I got rid of them, or they left. It wasn't a year and a half ago that I sat down with my employees and I said, here are our core values. It ain't about the money. And if it's about the money, just get the F out right now. 2 people quit that day. Good riddance.
Good riddance.
Because we're going to move forward as a team. You will win and I have your back, but that means you have to have my back. We are a family. And those people that stuck, bro, they turned into leaders. I give them every resource that I can to solve the problems on their own. I pay them more money, the more problems that they solve. Their dreams become accomplished. I'm freed up so that I can do more of what I'm supposed to do on earth, and we win, just like the unlimited PTO.
That's
the right men and women will not abuse that with you, and you will know who your family is, because here at the end of the day, it's this: honey, I gave you unlimited PTO and you're still with me. I'm just looking for more people just like you. And I'd rather get to know them quicker than take a year and a half and have it cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to realize they were only here for the paycheck. And the first time something better came along, they went with them. Because I'll tell you what, girl, you might think that there's something better for you. And if there is, I will pay you half of what I got and get the hell out. Otherwise, we're doing this shit for life. Which is it? And that's the kind of friends I have too, Sam. That's how you and I developed a friendship. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with the money, but the money does exchange in that process too. And it's going to turn right back around and come to you in due course as well. Because when we're aligned with first 1 and then 20 and then 100 and then 1,000 people that are moving in the same direction, we can accomplish some really big things. And that excites me. But I certainly can't do it with people eating away at the bedrock of what we actually believe in. And that's why being an entrepreneur and the money's not important to me. It's a stupid resource. You could call it pink elephants. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a thing. I'm not in love with a thing. I'm in love with what the thing can do.
That's right.
And when people start to understand that, they start to get their alignments right. And we're talking about alignments on a much deeper level than we are just about the people, the humans that you put around you. And when you get those alignments right, life becomes simple. Not easy, simple. And then your job is to tend that plant, allow that plant to grow, allow that plant to produce a fruit, to eat the fruit, replant the seeds, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And they go, how did you get so big? Man, it's common sense. It just took me a long time to become common.
Kris, I don't even have a follow-up to that. I have to go pray and meditate. I have no idea where.
It's a good time to end it then, man.
It is. It honestly might be. I don't want to taint all that. I think that whoever is listening to this should rewind 3 or 4 minutes and just put that 4 minutes on repeat a couple of times. You are, it's funny too. I will say, like you said, yeah, there is money transacted. As you said that, I went, by my design, you didn't ask me for anything. I called you. I said, Kris, this is what I need, and this is where it's at. And you said, don't pay this. Come do this. This is what's right for you. And that was actually, you told me to go do the cheaper thing. You told me to go do the thing that aligned me with more people like us. And
it's
that
the
was
right thing to do, dude.
The right thing to do.
I could have gone for the more expensive thing and got a short-term win with you, or I could have done the right thing and assured that I'm not leaning on you, that I'm actually trusting that by doing the right thing comes back to me.
Right.
And if I do that long enough and consistently enough, it's growing that fruit. And this is the fruit that I want to grow. I don't want to grow the fruit of being an asshole. I want to grow the fruit of loving on people and taking care of people and putting people around me that would make the same decision. I don't want to go out to dinner with you and have you oogle my wife's boobs the entire night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can look at them once or twice if you want. They're nice. Have fun. But don't oogle them. She's my wife. I want to be able to trust that you will take care of her if I'm no longer here. I want you to be able to trust that about me. I want friends like that. And so you know what I did? I went and fucking made them. Simple. The same thing you're doing in your company. But now that we're doing it as entrepreneurs, we have an opportunity to change the world with that if we just don't stop.
Right.
So that's my mission. And that's a damn big mission. And so I'm excited. It gives me a reason to get up every day. And it gives me a reason when we're sitting here in the middle of this podcast to listen to you and go, wait, that just hit my gut. I need to remember to think about that. Thank you, Sam. That's why I got on this podcast. I thought I was here to help you out and just talk about it. No, you just helped me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It works that way. Yeah, bro.
It really does, though. It really does work that way. 100%. 100%. The people that we help have absolutely no idea how much they help us. No idea. And you can tell them all day. You telling me right now, but in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah. Sure. I'm sure I told him something he didn't already think about. But the truth is that it did happen. And when we tell people, man, you help me more than I help you, they're like, yeah, sure, until they do it. Until they experience helping someone and go, wow, that was better for me than it was for them. I have no idea what's going to happen to them at the end of this, but that interaction just changed my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been searching for it my whole life, man. So now that we found it, we just need to keep pressing forward and keep making it available for other people to be a part of it. And wherever they fit in is where they fit in. I think they say in the medical field, the first rule is to do no harm. I think that should be like the standard operating procedure for all humans. Like, first, do no harm, and at the end of the day, that goes back to why I've always been a go-giver. Dude, I've always wanted people to win. I came out being like a happy kid who I wanted to see people laugh and smile and become successful. And yes, I was very competitive, but even if I won, I would still want to go over and shake the guy's hand that we just beat. And if he beat me, I'd look him in the eye and shake his hand and say, you got me this time. Now I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to beat you next time.
That's right.
That's healthy. That's okay. What I don't want to do is, Sam's gone. Now I'm going to hit on his wife. I don't want to be that kind of guy. I don't want those kind of people around me. And so we need to continue to put the messages out here like you're doing, like I'm doing, like a whole bunch of us are doing, so that we can let people know that they don't have to suffer for years and years by themselves, that if they are an entrepreneur, if they are somebody that's looking to get better, there is help out there with people that will take care of them and tell them the truth. At the end of the day, it's just telling people the truth.
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of people fear. Sometimes it costs money to get into these places, right? Sometimes it costs some money to get it. It costs money to go to therapy.
Yeah.
It costs money to get into some of these places. And I just want to say from my own experience that the investment in myself, my mindset, my thinking, and my alignment has been the single best investment I have probably ever made into myself, outside of like my health. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just needed to say that out loud, because I was talking to someone just yesterday, the exact problem that they're facing. I referred them right to where they needed to go. And I said, look, the lowest tier, low's not even the first tier. It's like $300 a month. He went, man, screw that. 300. This dude makes a lot of money. Like, and I immediately in my head, I said, I'm not going to argue with them because it's not an opinion issue. It's a mentality issue.
Yeah.
And I can't change your mentality in a conversation. And I
Yeah.
went, oh, okay. Well, no, I hear you, man. That's cool. If only you knew how much I was spending. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I didn't even mention it but I seriously in my heart, but my head has changed more since aligning with these people in the last couple of months than it has in years. And I just wanted to say, yes. I mean, sometimes I think people look at, oh yeah, align with people. Sure. Spend money to join X, Y. I changed my life, changing my life. So I just had to.
I've been a part of the same group that you're a part of for 3 years now. And in 3 years, I've gone from a struggling business owner to owning 4 companies, speaking on stages, #1 best-selling author. I could go on and on and on. I live in our dream home. I'm on the 4th floor of it right now in my podcast studio that I'm still putting together. I mean, the financial wins, you can't deny. Who I am as a human being is like the guy that was in the desert and I see the oasis and I'm just praying that's not fake. And I finally plunge my head in that cool water and I'm like, that's the best tasting water I've ever had in my life.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't mean anybody's perfect. We're not anywhere close to perfect, but it's people that not only have core values, but it's people that are aligned on a mission where we live by a code with one another and reinforce it every day. That's what makes our network very different than a lot of others. Is we, just like a business, we know we can't walk away from it for a month and come back and go, it's dead. Well, what did you think was going to happen? And so we lean into each other all the time. Your and my relationship, even though it has guidelines, whenever you reach out to me, we talk.
That's right.
So it's not like that. What if we just continued to do that? What if we could help a few people that really want to be helped? They just finally needed the right people to do it. And I think we're the right men and women for the job. I truly think that.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. Thank you for hopping on.
Yeah, man.
Dude, really, this was great. This was incredible. I didn't mean it to be a little therapy session for myself, but hey, every time we talk, that's exactly what it is. So
it is what it is. It helped me out too. If people want to get in touch with me, the easiest way is come on to Facebook or Instagram. On Facebook, I'm the Kris Whitehead with a K, Kris Whitehead, or I'm official Kris Whitehead on Instagram. Send me a DM. Do not try to sell me your stuff. That's an immediate way to get blocked from me. But if people want to connect and if they want to get my book, it's Becoming Iconic: How to Make Today's Ceiling Tomorrow's Floor. And I'm always down for a conversation about becoming better in life. So I appreciate you having me on your podcast, brother.
Thanks, dude. Hey, if you're looking for anything mindset related, anything life related, please reach out to Kris. Write that shit down. Changed my life. Kris, thanks for coming on. Hey, thank you very, very much for listening. We'll see you next time.